I don't label myself as a healer because my belief is that everyone has the innate ability to heal themselves.
It's kind of like all this chatter in my brain, like all these voices just kind of like, they get turned down, and then I'm able to just like really hone in and focus.
Afterward, sometimes we can just get up and walk away and forget that our bodies need some time to integrate that experience.
Welcome to the Mapuana Reed Show. Today we have Claire Bryan with us, and she is going to talk to us all about Reiki. She is a Reiki Master Practitioner. I want to say Reiki healing for some reason, but tell me what you do and tell me, how is that even different?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Mapuana.
Yes.
It's a real privilege and honor to be on your show. I'm so excited.
Thank
I think
you.
I met you in May as part of Sam's class, right when you were
Yes.
launching. So
Yeah.
it's incredible how many episodes you've done.
Yeah,
since
I think
that
yours
time.
is going to be like episode 30-ish.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
that's a celebration. So, yes, I'm a Reiki Master Practitioner, and many people do call themselves Reiki healers. That's a very common phrase, so perhaps why your brain is
Yeah.
wanting to have you say that. I don't label myself as a healer because my belief is that everyone has the innate ability to heal themselves, and receiving Reiki, going to a sound meditation, or pursuing any other form of physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healing is that we, the practitioners, provide you the space, and we, as Reiki practitioners, are conduits of energy for healing, but we are giving you the ability to heal yourself, that you know how to do that. And I think it's really important that individuals don't give that power away, because we see it a lot in Western medicine with traditional medical practices. When you give your power to your doctor and think that they know best, and sometimes you can then lose your own intuition and your own sense of what you know your body or your mind need, and then in some ways almost inhibit your healing capacity and possibilities.
Yeah. So like tapping into that intuition. So like in Hawaii, we call it your na'au, tapping into that, and then almost like knowing your baseline, right? So then when is it time to get help, and knowing like what, like tapping into yourself, I guess, truly, and just being like,
Absolutely.
I think my body needs this, or what does my body need? So what exactly is Reiki? My sister does Reiki on me sometimes, and I'm like, I need a massage. Like, let me do Reiki. I'm like, no, get in there. Give me a massage. I need somebody to touch me.
There are some
So close your eyes.
body workers and
Yeah.
massage therapists who are also Reiki practitioners, and then you are getting both. So maybe,
Yeah,
maybe that's what
maybe.
she's doing
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
So Reiki stands for Universal Life Source Energy.
Okay.
And it's a Japanese modality that perhaps has an even longer and more ancient history, but I'm going to focus on what is more the modern history of Reiki.
Okay.
So it was originated from a doctor in Japan, and then actually came to Hawaii. It was the first place outside of Japan that it landed in, and then has
Wow.
since spread. It's globally available at this
Yeah.
point. But it is the belief that we all have access to Reiki. We all have access to life source energy. Reiki practitioners are attuned to that, and there are different levels and different schools, and it can get very complicated, but I don't think it needs to,
Yeah.
personally. But Reiki practitioners are attuned to the Reiki energy, so it's just like having your personal kind of antenna more closely connected to that energy source, and then being able to channel that energy without getting in its way so that you can share it with somebody else. I personally found Reiki and decided to pursue it as a modality for healing, mainly for myself. So for the first many, many years that I was a practitioner and had completed my attunements, I only worked on myself. And then occasionally, like a friend or family member would ask me, but it actually wasn't until after the pandemic had started that I kind of stepped into sharing the energy and the healing modality with others. But it works to open, balance, and align your chakras. I also find that it helps people get deeper into meditative states and lets their intuition, their now, really come up and out. So perhaps there are things that have maybe been suppressed, or you've been trying to work through a problem and need a little, you're looking for the inspiration, the light bulb to go off. And I find that Reiki is a modality that can really help people get quiet and still enough to have that happen.
Why are you so passionate? What is your story with your connection with Reiki?
I found Reiki at a real moment of crisis in my life. I found out just almost around the exact same time that I got a formal diagnosis is when I found Reiki, that I had chronic Lyme disease for about 15 years. And that had impacted my life in every way and had been such a long time coming. I'd been sick for a very long time and gone through a lot of different avenues of trying to find answers and get better and having things not work out and kind of starting from square one, or sometimes it felt like square zero again. And I got a formal diagnosis and decided to take a holistic functional medicine based route to heal my chronic Lyme disease, but recognized very quickly that beyond just physically healing, there was a lot of mental, emotional, and spiritual healing that I needed to do. And I really needed to find confidence in my inner voice again and confidence in my intuition and repair a lot of relationship with myself and with people, that then like kind of has a ripple effect out to the relationships in your life, certainly. But I found Reiki to be the most inspirational and accessible modality that really spoke to me. I believe in a higher power, but have a very strong resistance to kind of like structured, organized religion. Reiki allows for a lot of openness in that. It doesn't exclude anyone, and it's also something that you always have access to help yourself kind of find center and move forward.
What are some ways that someone could use Reiki on themselves? So do you take them through like different steps? And
so you can come, I work with people one-on-one and in small groups. So that's an opportunity where you would just only receive. But if someone is called to go through Reiki training themselves and go through the educational process and the attunement and building a relationship with the energy, which is something that is part of how I at least view Reiki, I think many practitioners do as well. You can then always have that as a tool in your arsenal for yourself. You can Reiki your physical body, you can Reiki thoughts, you can Reiki a situation, you can use Reiki to clear energy through a space. Your level 1 attunement is really only meant for Reiki when you're going to use it on yourself. And then if you go through a level 2, level 3, level 4 and become a master, that's when you can kind of start using Reiki to share it with others and to use it in different ways.
So give me some steps on how I can use Reiki on myself.
I am also a Reiki teacher, so I technically I could teach people and attune them, but most people come to Reiki the way you would go get a massage. So you're going to receive only, and then you aren't necessarily going to, you're not attuned, so you're not going to use Reiki in your everyday life. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Okay. Well, first tell me, what does attune actually mean? Because I think I might be getting that a little bit mixed up.
So if you would like to become a Reiki practitioner, then you go through training. You read through about the history, what the energy is, how to use it. There are very formal ways to learn about the hand positions and the process of giving yourself and then at some point somebody else a Reiki treatment. So all of that gets covered in Reiki training. And Reiki training is broken up into different levels. And then there's also multiple schools. I'm a Usui Shio Reiki Master, but there's angelic Reiki and white light Reiki and lots of different schools. It's become like many modalities spread out in a lot of different ways. But the core of it is all the same, that everyone has access to Reiki, but the way that maybe you have 3%, these numbers are somewhat arbitrary, but then when you become attuned to Reiki at level 1, you maybe have access to 10%, and then at level 2 you're going to have more access and more access. So you just have a stronger ability and capacity to hold source energy and then transmit it to somebody else.
Wow.
So you're like an empty vessel.
Okay.
So when I drop in and give Reiki to somebody, I am cleared myself. I am just a vessel of that energy to move through the person where they need to. Now, there are hand positions that I go through, and I am often guided by the energy to work on specific areas.
Okay.
However, there is a very firm belief that the Reiki has a much higher intelligence and deeper wisdom than I ever could. So it's going to where it's most needed for that individual. Setting an intention is a really important part of the practice as well. Whether the client chooses to share that intention with their practitioner or not, it doesn't really matter, frankly. Some people really like to have the talking be a part of their experience and a part of their session. And for many of us, opening up through our throat chakra, speaking our truths, sharing in that way is very powerful. But for people who are maybe more private or not ready or interested in doing that, that's completely fine. They've set that intention. They're like sharing that energy out into the world, even if they haven't vocalized it. And so the energy from Reiki will work on that intention as it sees
regardless if they were to speak it out or not.
Correct.
Yeah. Wow. What are ways that Reiki can help? Because I'm really new to Reiki, so I'm like kindergarten, so
so it allows your mind to calm down and relax. It can balance the energies between the left and right hemispheres of your brain, so it can bring you more peace and a calmer nervous system. So really also activating your autonomic nervous system while you're at least lying on a table and experiencing the session, which the effects of that will carry forward into the rest of your day or perhaps your week. And it opens and can align your chakras. So a lot of the hand positions for Reiki are connected to major and minor chakras, and very similar if you overlay like a traditional Chinese medicine and an acupuncture map of the body where they're going to put the needles or where they're going to do acupressure. It's very similar to a lot of the hand positions for Reiki.
But you're not actually touching them, right?
You can.
Oh, okay.
So you can do Reiki hands off or hands on. That's also up to the client, what they're more comfortable with.
Oh, interesting. Because I've only known Reiki to be hands off.
Okay.
But I didn't realize it could also be hands on.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do it hands on. You can do it hovering, hands off.
Okay.
You can also send Reiki once you're at a level 2 or beyond. As a practitioner, you can send Reiki distance because the belief is that the energy doesn't follow the same laws of time and space that we do. So again, a lot of it is about your intention.
Okay.
And if someone has asked to receive at a specific day and a time, and they've set it, you've set that up with your client, when you drop in, you can send to them specifically and they can receive.
Wow.
And it's interesting that you say about the hands off, because that's actually how sound became merged with my Reiki practice, is that I wanted to explore sound as a healing modality and found that I was unable to turn off kind of the flow of Reiki energy while I was playing the sound bowls.
Yeah.
And so I now explain to people when they come to a sound event that I'm a part of that they're also being bathed in waves of distance Reiki energy.
Wow.
Because it does work hands off as well, to your point.
Talk to me about the sound bowls. So how does that also help? So what's the difference between the sound bowls and Reiki? Is there a difference in healing?
Yes. Because of the way the energy waves are different. So sound is just a form of a wave of energy that we then hear and absorb, and Reiki is just a different energy wave, if you want to think of it that way. Not all sound practitioners practice Reiki. Not all Reiki practitioners practice sound. I just was very called to sound as an individual and was not anticipating or expecting them to overlap. But was given an opportunity to start playing the crystal sound bowls and kind of teach myself a little bit about them. And the idea was just to kind of to have some fun with it. And when I started to drop in deeper after, spending some time with the bowls and understanding how the mallets work and the different ways you can combine or separate the tones from the bowls, when you drop in when I drop into a sound meditation, I'm also really already in that Reiki space and in like meditative, like mental meditative state.
Okay.
And just felt that it was really important that that be shared with anyone coming to receive sound from me, because another very critical component of Reiki is consent, because everyone should be able to opt out if they don't want to receive the Reiki energy, because it can open up things and cause you to be inspired to make changes in your life that if you consciously don't want to make them, that's always your choice. And so, yeah, the Reiki and sound just kind of found their marriage in my life without me planning it. But now I can't imagine doing it any other way. I really can't. I cannot play the bowls and try to turn off the Reiki energy. It just like doesn't happen.
Yeah.
The bowls start to sound. I've tried. Like I've experimented a few times, and the bowls start to sound so weird. I'm like, they're not flowing very well. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because I think I need to be able to let go of some of my thinking mind when I'm in that space.
Yeah. When do you feel someone needs to come to you? Like I'm thinking for myself. So I'm thinking like, do I need Reiki? Do I not need Reiki? When do you think someone is ready to,
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say I
Asking
never
for a friend myself.
I would never say someone needs to come to me.
Yeah.
But I find that most people choose to book their first appointment or come to an event where they're going to experience something in a small group setting.
Yeah.
When in a few different scenarios. So one is when the other modalities that they've tried before that they're used to aren't working.
Okay.
So
might that be like breath work or meditation
or maybe, or it's, my talk therapist, however I work in that space, if that isn't helping me get through this block, or that isn't helping me find a different perspective on this situation. And so I feel like I'm just kind of coming back to the same thing again and again, and not feeling able to move past it or move through it or come at it from a different angle. And so I feel stuck. So that's one time when people, I would say, come. I think if you're feeling a difficulty with balancing through your chakras, which can feel different for everyone, usually it manifests as I feel really ungrounded. And so maybe I have like a lot of monkey mind. I'm really distracted all the time. Okay. I feel like I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to do next, and I'm not really connecting to anyone or anything anymore. Okay. Or people who feel that they want to start to tap in deeper. Maybe they have a meditative practice, maybe they do breath work, or have a yoga practice, or some sort of, whether they go to a studio or do it at home, practices like that, and they want to kind of get to the next level, they'll come to me. People who are struggling with trauma or generational, maybe they've just found out about a generational trauma, or have been working with their more traditional mental health practitioner and are ready to work through a trauma. Okay. They can find Reiki to be a really supportive additional modality. It doesn't really, if they choose to do one or the other, that's of course their choice, but many people combine them because Reiki is going to work on a completely different level, and it, I think, is one of the reasons why it was so helpful for me. I didn't really need to talk anymore about my illness. I just needed to start to really let my body heal on a mental and emotional level. And talking about it was not helpful. I did try that. And Reiki is a modality that doesn't require you to do that. And sound is the same way. You can just simply receive and let the energy waves do what they need to do, kind of to break up some stuck energy and clear out some of the patterns that maybe are no longer serving you.
When you talked about like the monkey brain, that's so me. Like my mind is all over the place all the time. It's like ding, 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 Yeah, I have like a bazillion thoughts always happening. So do you think it'll help with someone with ADHD to like calm the mind?
Yes, absolutely. I would say 100%, because you're learning a new way of being. Yeah. And it can be really difficult for some people to just receive it. I put that kind of in quotes. It can be very challenging for people to simply drop into their breath and receive. And it's one of the reasons why I like to combine sound with Reiki at this point too, for people who come to me specifically with those sorts of symptoms, if you will, or that's what they want to focus on, because the sound gives your mind something else to focus on that isn't just your breath. So maybe you've tried that, and that's not enough for your brain to focus on, to have a practitioner or a yoga teacher or a meditation leader to say, hi, okay, so we're going to drop in for meditation. Just focus on your breath, in and out, in and out. Every time you feel that you get distracted, come back to your breath.
Yeah.
That is often not enough for people, but the sound waves give your mind something that isn't a thought. It isn't the monkey mind. It's just the sound. It's the frequency of that sound, and really can help people get quiet internally. And sometimes, I would say oftentimes, many of us have really powerful, there's a reason why our mind is having maybe some of those monkey mind moments. And there's something that is trying to be heard, but it's getting kind of shoved out or pushed around by all those other thoughts. And these sorts of modalities I have found for myself and for clients who have come and people who have come to events that I've been a part of, that this can help them get quiet enough that the one thought or the voice or the piece of information that needs to come to the surface and be received finally has the space to do so. Whether that happens during the meditation or afterward, either later that day, or sometimes, you'll have a dream or you'll wake up the next day and be like, oh, that's the thing. And you had that clarity.
I know I work the best when I have some type of sound on in the background. Like if I know I need to get into deep work, I'll just put something on, like a frequency or something. I'll just put like morning frequency, or I'll just type in deep focus frequency on Spotify, and whatever pulls up, I'll just play that. And like I can just really it's kind of like all this chatter in my brain, like all these voices just kind of like they get turned down, and then I'm able to just like really hone in and focus. But yeah, sound is powerful.
Yes, 100%. It's kind of like white noise, when you have those high vibration frequencies that are playing through.
Yeah.
Gives your brain a break.
It does. It's like, here, go focus on this so like I can go do something else. Like, here's something to think about, is just this, the frequencies and all the sounds and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know about you, but I know back in like my parents' days, all of this stuff seems so new to me. So breath work, meditation, yoga, Pilates, Reiki, sound, like all of that. I'm sure this is probably like old stuff, but I think I'll just talk about myself. Like growing up here in Hawaii, like nobody in my family did any of these things. So for me, all of that is all very new, So like I feel like I'm just learning about all these things, but it's been around for years and years and years, right?
I was just listening to a podcast where they said they feel that sound healing and sound baths and sound meditations are where yoga was about 10 or 15 years ago. So, now yoga, there's the yoga studios on every corner, and soon sound will kind of be in that space too.
Wow.
I would say that historically there's incredibly ancient texts and traditions that have been using Reiki or energy healing modalities that maybe had a different name, but were ultimately the same, kind of the same thing.
And different cultures Reiki. And different,
and also using sound back in like the Tibetan and Buddhist traditions. There's an incredible depth of history and tradition into like very ancient times of using sound to help heal the body.
Yeah.
And I think it's a combination of things. Some of it is that those modalities have been lost, and now, or were lost for, the generation of our parents and the generation perhaps before that. So the 1900s, maybe we had a loss of them, at least in a lot of areas of the world.
Yeah.
Also, as so many of these more traditional practices, indigenous communities, they're getting pushed out.
Yeah.
And so there was, I think, in some cultures, a decision to protect these practices and keep them very insular, which I completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it took quite a while for them to finally spread out to the West. But now that they're here, it's been, I think, very powerful for different practitioners. Now Reiki is something that's used in hospitals. Like a lot of nurses are Reiki attuned to help as like healing touch for their patients. Yeah. Because we know now there's been more formally recognized research. It wasn't enough. The anecdotal research wasn't enough. Now there's been actual, quote unquote, scientific research that's been published about how important healing touch is for people who are going through an illness or in the hospital setting. And many nurses, like I said, and other caregivers have become attuned to Reiki as to make that healing touch even more powerful. And then there's been tracking of how those patients have done and all of that to give it a more stronger validity in our current culture, at least here in the United States.
So I know you can't do Reiki on yourself, but like with sound bowls. So if someone at home, they're just thinking like maybe a mom and she's just like, I just want to be able to have like my own time and my own peace. And I want to be able to like go in the room and just play my sound bowls. Do you just play the sound bowls? Because even that, do you just get sound bowls and you just go?
You absolutely could.
And that's it?
They're certainly an investment. So some people start with one or two. You can choose to get crystal quartz sound bowls or the Tibetan bowls, which are usually a hammered metal of some form.
Okay.
There's also the chimes. I've had the pleasure and privilege of playing some gongs. Those are quite an investment, and depending on how big the gong is, can take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But I mean, people who play even more traditional instruments like the ukulele or the guitar or the drums, clarinet, any of these are all instruments that you can drop into and use, especially if you combine that intention for healing or that intention for peace or calm as you start to play the instrument. You can experience those benefits, certainly. The crystal bowls are, in some ways, a very, and the Tibetan bowls as well, very, very simple, not to say easy or basic, but simple instruments to start to get accustomed to different tones, different frequencies. There's a number, at least two, I think, of free apps that you can get on your phone to see, like, is this playing at an A note and what's the hertz? And so you can actually start to play around with that yourself. And maybe you find after you do one for 5 minutes, like, oh, I feel this in my body, or, oh, my mental state has kind of shifted from this to this. And then if I play a different bowl, this is what I experience. And you can start to do your own kind of self-exploration and experiments a little bit on what works best for you. And many people, I would say, yes, if you have space in your home to have an instrument or two, a bowl or two, I would absolutely. And kids also love to play. Loves to play with the instruments.
What if you don't have space? What would the chimes be?
The chimes are certainly the most, I think, space effective. Or Tibetan bowls, many of which can be smaller. I didn't bring it today, but I have one that's about, maybe it's 2.5 inches in diameter. It's a very baby little bowl. So you can get them in all different sizes. The crystal quartz bowls tend to be always a little bit bigger and
those
more
are the
fragile.
ones I see.
So there's always that consideration too, depending on your space and who else might be there, or if you have pets. Pets generally love Reiki, and some of them like sound.
Okay. Or you want to cover? Because I don't even know where all my questions went, so I'm just going with it. I'm just like,
as long as I mean, if you feel like it's going to be, if it's beneficial for you and the women who are listening, then that's all I care about.
I feel for me it is, because I feel like sometimes for me, I'm just kind of like, do I need this? Like, what exactly is sound healing? Do I need sound healing? What is Reiki? Like, so for me, if anything, I feel like this episode is really for me to ask all my questions.
I love that.
And if you're listening, you're welcome. I hope that you're getting stuff out of this too.
I mean, I think I would say if you're curious about it and it's come up a few times in your mind, maybe try one. Try a session or go to an event that's like a group event and see. Do I like this? Does this feel good in my body? Did I experience any change in that monkey mind that I was struggling with? Or did I sleep better that night? And that's something that I would like to incorporate more frequently into my regular routine.
That
would be my
Tell me about the chimes. So, that's right. You said fire, water.
So these are the 4 koshi chimes. They're made out of bamboo. They're beautiful. And these ones are representing the different elements. So air, fire, water, and earth.
And then you play them all separately.
Sometimes I play them separately, or I'll like kind of play one and then a little bit of the other, and then I'll go back to another one. When I do them at an event or for an individual, I usually feel into where they're kind of like so around our physical body, we have like our energy field around us, our auric field. And sometimes I can kind of feel into, ooh, what does this person kind of need? Is it dry? Is it really tense? Does it need a little bit of grounding? And so then I'll play the chimes that most will help bring their auric field into balance. But I love the chimes. I feel like when I get to go to an experience sound, which is one of my favorite things, and people play the chimes over me, it's like I feel droplets of sound like hitting my field. Yeah. So I really love them.
Yeah.
And they're definitely a fun one and a low kind of cost investment and pretty durable and easy to have in your home. And you can also, if you have like an outdoor or like an indoor outdoor space and you want them to sometimes just be played by the wind, you can hang them up outside.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then do I need all four? So I'm really thinking about getting chimes.
You can just choose one, like
or
whichever
just add at a time.
Yes, and then I started out just with one, and then I had two, and then I decided to get the last two. I wanted the whole set at that point. But
where would I get?
You can buy them at music stores I think they used to sell them at Lemire Crystal Shop on Island. I don't know if they still do. This was many years ago. That's where I got my first one. You can buy them on music shops online, or I think Amazon might have them. You can always check.
I'm always
usually from like a third
Amazon.
party, so you'll just have to see like what the inventory is. I don't know if Koshi Chimes just has their own specific website, but I know that many online, like the Ohm store definitely sells or used to sell Koshi Chimes.
What's the name of it?
Oh, the Ohm store. I can.
Oh, okay.
It's like an online shop that sells instruments, but also other like yoga and healing modality.
I think for me, this would be a nice first step. Like, I'm not ready to invest in a big bowl or anything like that, but maybe I love the sound of it, the way how you did it with me prior to this. Yeah, it was so good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was good. Okay, so all of these, so the sound bowls, do they all do the same thing?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the chimes are always going to be played off of your body.
Okay.
And so the way that the sound waves will kind of influence you and the way that the frequencies will hit into your field, the resonance that can happen with your cellular makeup and like the tissues and the organs will be different than the bowls, which are going to be often a lot louder. But you can also play the bowls physically on your body if you want.
So you just hold the bowl.
Yes.
And
then the vibration is going to be much more intense and perhaps like targeted at a specific area. Wow. So in some ways, yes, sound is sound. And so the way that your body is taking that sound in that way, it's the same compared to like Reiki versus sound. However, different instruments are going to influence and connect with your body in different ways. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it totally did.
And then the gongs are like another entire experience where you can feel, especially very large diameter gongs, really they have such a presence. And then you can also take them off of their stand, their holder, and swing them. And then it's moving a really powerful vibration. It's moving that energy through the room, which can have a completely different kind of like wave sensation over your body if you're there in person. Yes.
Wow. Very interesting. Seriously, like I am like kindergarten level on all of this stuff. So like
the next time I'm going to a sound bath that has a gong, I'll let you know. Mapuana. We can go together.
yes, I would love to go with you because then I feel like I don't think I'd want to go by myself, especially like thinking like, oh, how is it going to be? But like I think if I went with you, I'll be like, okay,
I'm gonna go with Claire. Let's do it.
Yeah. So you also do this for retreats, you mentioned.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoy collaborating with others in almost every aspect of my life. So I do work one-on-one with people. I also work out of a studio in Kailua right now, which is amazing. So it's available to the people who are coming to the classes there. But one of my favorite opportunities is to use sound and Reiki in the way that I combine them as a amplifier to the integration process that can happen after you've done a breathwork journey, after you've done a yoga class, after you've done a tapping session. So I know you had Jess Johnson on here a few weeks ago talking about emotional freedom techniques. She and I have partnered. So it's really, after you do any work that is opening up something new in your body, which is kind of what all of those modalities are doing. Whether you're doing a yin yoga class and really getting into the fascia, or you're doing a more intense movement or yoga flow and you're getting your heart rate up quite a bit, or you're dropping into breath work and just having this change in the oxygen carbon dioxide levels in your system, or you're doing tapping and uncovering and working through some sort of belief. Afterward, sometimes we can just get up and walk away and forget that our bodies need some time to integrate that experience. And I find that sound is a modality that really lets people integrate in a powerful way in a fairly short amount of time. Because again, it provides the brain something to focus on. So you don't go right into your monkey mind of like, well, what did I just learn? Or like, oh, what's my next to-do list? Or what am I doing this weekend? And blah, 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 blah.
Because all of that is me.
Instead, you have this opportunity to lie on your mat or in a relaxed position in a comfortable space and just be. And just breathe with that experience that you just had. And you're no longer working so hard at the experience. So whether it was movement or breath work or tapping, you're getting quiet, your body is quiet, your mind is able to get quiet, and you can just let it integrate. And the sound, as many of the attendees to the events that I've been a part of, they've told me that has been the experience for them, that the sound has really helped them with that integration process and remembering what they wanted to take away from their experience and let them do that.
I have a friend who I told her, I said, hey, you should come to my event. We're going to do all these things. And then she was like, are you going to have sound bowl healing stuff? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And she's like afraid of it. She was like, no, I don't think that's for me. I don't think I can come. And I was like, what? I was like, it's just sound. But I feel like she's not ready to tap in yet. I feel like sound starts to tap her into things that maybe she's not ready for. So it's her resistance of like, oh no, I don't want to, I'm not ready.
Okay, that's definitely possible. And everyone certainly should respect what their own intuition is telling them. So when you ask like, oh, do I need sound or do I need Reiki? Do you need it? I don't know. But are you curious enough about it that you want to explore it? Then I would say that's your intuition telling you that it wants you to explore it. And that there's something that it wants to reveal to you through those modalities. Sound can be very intense. I think of it as to me, it's a supportive sense. Like if you think of our five senses, touch can be very triggering. And taste is one of the ones that brings back the most intense memories for people. Certainly sound can also trigger memories, but lyric sound. So I think we think of songs really can trigger memories. I find that for most people that I've spoken to, that sound is more of like a neutral sense and can be very supportive, but it can, because it can help you tap deeper into meditative states. If there's messages maybe that want to come through or something from your intuition or a repressed memory, then you may be resistant to letting yourself get into a deep meditation through the sound, if that makes sense. But that's just a possibility, certainly not a have to. But it can help you get deeper into things. Which maybe some people that's not what they want to pursue at this time.
Okay. I feel like I'm at the point where I'm ready for baby steps. So
like
what would be my first baby step to do? Like what do you offer that I could attend or
Sure, absolutely. So you could buy chimes. Or a chime. You can choose an element. We can play with them a little bit more today. You can choose your favorite element and buy a chime. You could come to the classes. So I do sound for the entirety of a yin yoga class every Monday night at Elevate on Oahu. So
and then how long is the class?
It's an hour-long class, and somebody else guides you through the yin yoga poses, and I'm playing the bowls and the chimes and the other instruments. I have an ocean drum. I also do a lot of vocal
Wow.
toning, and I do some singing sometimes.
Okay.
On Tuesday nights, I'm also at Elevate on Oahu, and I'm working with Sage. So she'll lead you through breath work, and then we'll
Okay.
talk about that. As I was speaking before, I should say, about that integration piece. I do the sound for that at the
Ooh.
end of the class.
Okay.
Once a month, Sage and I are also out there doing a longer format. So it's a 90-minute once a month for a longer format, or
Okay.
Tuesdays is 60
Okay.
minutes total. And then what kinds of events do I have coming up? Public events. I have some private events. So
Okay.
public events, I'll have to keep you updated on my
Okay.
LinkedIn,
Okay.
or my Instagram, I should say, my social media. But I often am out and about on Oahu with different people who at their retreats or their events providing the sound,
Okay.
which is also a fun way to see me. And I do a sunrise session once a month in Lani Kai. So if you're interested in that,
Yes.
it's a little bit of gentle movement. I don't
Okay.
even quite call it yoga. It's like stretching.
Okay.
And then we
Okay.
do
That's a good one
sound.
for me right there because I'm like a
And
morning
it's for the
person.
community. Yep, it's donation
Okay.
based. You get to watch the sunrise.
Okay.
And the sound bath is kind of
Ooh. Okay.
supported by
Okay.
the ocean waves. So we get
Oh
like
my
natural
gosh,
sound
yes.
that's already there.
Okay.
And then I play the bowls a little bit on top of
Okay.
them. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, if I come to that, where do I park? Because Lanikai has no parking.
Well, at sunrise, there is parking.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Yeah. So the
Okay.
street parking, because we usually start around 6 a.m.,
Okay.
5:45
Okay.
or 6 a.m., depending
Okay.
on what time of year it is. But this coming Sunday, it'll be available. This coming Sunday when
Okay.
we're recording, I should say. So I
Yeah.
can give you those details. But yeah.
So you missed it if you're listening to this.
Yeah. There is parking though because
Okay.
it's so early.
Okay. What time on Sunday? I'm really serious. I think I'm gonna come on Sunday.
Emma and I are supposed to do it at 6.
Okay.
We're meeting at 6.
Okay. I'll text you and then we can. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
bring my
learned
bowls
so
out to it.
much in
I'm
this
so
episode.
glad. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so crazy. I thought I was like thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it. Like whatever. Like I do feel like I didn't even know that. I know about chimes and stuff, but I didn't realize they're like for healing and stuff like that. You know?
I think it's one of those things that sound can be healing, or
Yeah.
if you don't have that intention behind it, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting to think about how many of us, I mean, I know I grew up in a household with a lot of music, and I'm really grateful for that,
Yeah.
and a lot of classical music, so some of it was without lyrics, and that was great. But we're inundated with sound and pop culture with a lot of, music that has a lot of lyrics. We're taking that all in, whether we're really conscious of it or not, and how much of an effect that can have on us.
Yeah.
And so we can choose to see sound as having an impact on our outlook and our health.
Yeah.
And we can use it for healing if we like. We can
Yeah.
leverage its power for the better for ourselves and for our communities.
Yeah. That was so good. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This
thank
was
you for
fun.
being here. Thank you so much. So if someone wants to attend one of your classes, where do they go? You're on social media.
The best place to find me would be on Instagram, yes.
Perfect. Okay, and what's your Instagram?
Claire, CLAIRE 724.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Mapuana Reed Show. And I hope to see you at one of Claire's